And how do you pronounce your last name?
Bailey.
Just Bailey. Okay.
Yep.
All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Kerr from Here are the Watchmen. And you know what? I am really, really excited and inspired by our guest today. It's Matt Bailey. He's a guy who went out. There was like a Mothman conference or convention or whatever you want to call it. He went out there and he took his own money and went down and had some flyers put together. And he went out and he talked to people about Jesus, which is exactly what we talk about on this show. Get up off the couch and get out there and do something. So, Matt, tell us, like, what led you to do this?
Well, actually, I didn't actually have flyers. I just had a single sign that said, "You matter," just 2 words, real big on the sign. But what led me to make that sign in the first place is I'd actually attempted suicide almost 2 years ago. And I made that sign not too long ago, sometime in early spring of this year. And I was standing on the side of the road with it and waved to people when people walked by. Then I could testify to them and show them the peace that I have found. But the reason I went to the Mothman Festival was because I had a feeling that I needed to get up and go and walk around with my sign. And I actually forgot that festival was even going on that day. So I was driving to another town across the river from me, and I turned around and went to that festival, and I realized, that's today. And I just walked around and talked to people, and, the words "you matter" were enough to get people, interested in what I might have to say. But also, it's true, people do matter. And so when they see that sign, I was hoping that at the very least, they would put something in their head that they might seek the truth another time, So that's what that was all about. I just felt like I needed to do something. I got up and did it, and all just kind of fell into place.
Well, you see, Matt, I mean, what you did is what some of us preach all the time, is it's like you got up off the couch. It would have been much easier for you to say, okay, there's the Mothman Festival and whatever. But you got up off the couch and you went out there and you actually did something. Now, do we know if you converted anybody? Who knows? It doesn't matter. I mean, you went out there and you did it. So I guess what I'm curious about is what gave you the passion to do that?
Oh yeah, the passion to do what I did that day, I don't really know. It just kind of, like I said, I do that similar stuff anyway in my own community. But the idea of going to the Mothman Festival made a lot of sense when I remembered it was going on, because we here in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, we'll have anywhere from 15 to almost 30,000 extra people in town during that weekend from all over the world. So that seemed like a good opportunity to spread on a like a wider spread of to as many people as possible in different areas, people that I wouldn't typically ever get to run into. So that's kind of like what that did. As far as the passion goes, I have a fire in my bones when things like that happen. On the way down there, I was actually listening to music, and I was like shouting almost. I don't think I was shouting in my car, like getting pumped up, kind of like you would before like a big football game or something. It was kind of crazy. And that's kind of what happens on my way to an event like that, because I don't have the courage to do those kind of things. I really don't. But God gives me that ability and the confidence that I don't naturally possess. So that's why I pray the whole way to an event like that. And when I got there, it's just I'm just fired up. My energy level is really high. If you happen to see that interview that Tom did with me at the Mothman Festival, I was like, really jacked up. And that's kind of what I do. So I can't give myself any kind of credit for this because I feel like it's a blessing to me beyond belief to be able to do what I do.
Well, so now, what do you do today? Yeah, I mean, do you work with Tom Dunn now today?
No, I don't believe so. I got interviewed by him at the festival, and then he brought me on his show like last Wednesday or whatever day it was, and that's it for that
Well,
that I know of.
that's like absolutely crazy. So, I mean, here you are. You're a guy who's basically sitting on the couch, and you see this thing, this Mothman convention, which just blows my mind. You know that they even have one. But you see this, and you all of a sudden decide, I'm going to go out there and talk to these people about Jesus. I mean,
And for the most part, I mean, since I started following my calling and doing what I feel God wants me to do, when I'm not doing what God wants me to do, He makes me miserable. I feel like my mind's just grumpy, and I think I have to like go in prayer and figure out why am I feeling so unnaturally not okay. And that day, I felt like, I mean, it was awful. My whole morning, I was rude to my wife. Like we were just not clicking. I was just not happy. And I took a breather. I went outside, and I was heading back inside my house to get my sign. I was like, I got work to do, I guess. And as I open my front door, I get a text from my wife saying, "Why don't you take your sign and go do some work?" So I did. And when I got down there, the whole thing changed. I was doing God's work. Everything was good. And it was amazing. Sometimes God makes me really uncomfortable with myself to push me to where I need to go. It's kind of weird.
so tell me, like most of the people that were there, okay, who were they? What were they like?
Oh yeah, it was quite an interesting crowd. I I I don't know. I can't say that there were a ton of Christians there, if I had to be honest. A lot of dark people that were in this into spiritual things like all this demonic kind of stuff. They had it wasn't just a Mothman. There were booths there and all these other different kind of legends and creatures and all these crazy stories. And it was people were in costume. People showed up in costume. Some people were dressed like Satan. Some people were dressed like movie characters. So with me being able to go to that, knowing how it is, because I went there once before when I moved this area, I never went again before that. I was deep in prayer and I didn't know what I was going to get into. I kind of felt like I might get almost like yelled at or something. I didn't know what would happen, but I had the confidence that God gave me to go do it. But what I did find is a lot of people really just needed somebody to remind them that they have value. I had people literally crying for me just holding the sign. Some of them came up and talked to me, some of them didn't. And I had like people run up and hug me just for walking down the street with a sign. And then I got to talk to them. I got to tell my experience. So we would talk, and there were several people I was able to pray with right there in the spot. And I don't know the ripple effect that would have come from that, but I know that God was leading me to do what I was doing. I mean, there was a lot of pain you could see in the faces of people that were at that thing. There was a lot of people who, honestly, like me, I wasn't really into that stuff in school, but I was, picked on. I was like a nerd kind of thing. And I kind of saw a crowd that kind of is looking for a community, and they come from all over like the world, honestly, like different countries sometimes, right here to meet with like people. And I think people seeking a community, what's a better community than the community of God? Like these people are looking for something they don't understand. That's why they go to these kind of things. And we do understand. We do understand God, and we understand what a mystery it is to not understand it. So to me, that's just more reason to reach who I can and when I can.
Well, Matt, for those that are listening to this show today, and they're like, who is the Mothman? Explain the Mothman to us.
Okay, I'll do my best. Um, Supposedly in the I think the '60s or something, the Mothman showed up in Point Pleasant. The story goes that there was a young couple that were out stargazing, and that they probably were heading home late, so they needed a good excuse, is what I think. That's my personal belief on it. But it kind of got out of control. The idea of it was that the Mothman, it was like an omen or something, and that's why the bridge fell, which did happen. It was a tragedy here. We had a bridge fall, and a lot of people were killed. And it was terrible. But the idea is that this Mothman was like around here, and that he was like 6 or 7 feet tall or something, and flies at night with red glowing eyes, and all these scary little things. And then they made a movie out of it. And it's brought a lot of revenue to our town, but like, it's just crazy that people flock here because it's about the most terrible festival you ever go to. I mean, it's a lot of little booths selling Mothman shaped keychains or cookies, and people stand in line for hours to go to the museum there, which is, I mean, they did a good job, I guess, with it, but it's one room. And it's just fascinating to me that so many people come to such an event, which makes me feel like it has to be because they're with like people. And that's kind of like the community thing I was talking about. Because I don't know why you would come to it twice if it wasn't for a different reason than the festival itself. It just doesn't make sense. But the Mothman is supposed to be like this mystical, like, creature or something. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me either way. But
Well, I mean, it's fascinating to me that people are so obsessed with like this sort of stuff.
yeah.
I mean, it really truly is. Now, what was your reception when you went there?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, what did people, when you went to it and you started talking about Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
what was the response that you got from the
Oh, okay.
people?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't exactly like I was out there preaching necessarily. I was just walking around the sign that said "You matter," passing out free high fives. And I would just say, "Hey, who wants a free high five?" And if people stopped long enough that they would talk to me, then I would testify to them about my experience and how Christ saved me. And most all of those experiences went very well, with most of them resulting in me feeling the need to ask them if I could pray with them, and them stopping and praying with me. I had a few people in tears at some place saying they absolutely needed this. They just needed this because they having a really rough time. And I could see the pain in their eyes because I used to see it in the mirror, and I could feel on that particular person, it was a girl, that I hope that she finds the truth, because there was some real pain in this girl, and it's weird. Like, I don't do street preaching typically, almost never actually, in the sense of going out and preaching randomly. I mingle within whatever crowd I'm in. I talk to many people that talk to me on a one-on-one or one-on however many people are standing there interaction, and I'll just be real with them. I used to be a salesman, like a professional salesman. I was really good at that. And I also used to take care of people in their homes, often people who had disabilities, sometimes elderly. And that was like a care thing and companion thing. And I'm able to use those skills together, to reach people on the street, and be social with them, and joke with them, and then be able to let them see that I actually took the time to care about them. Not that I'm trying to make some like YouTube video of me street preaching and arguing with people, because my point is to show them the truth and have their ears open enough to hear. And so there's not like a ton of people in that crowd that I would have gotten to testify to compared to how many people were in the crowd. But the people that I did get to talk to one-on-one and closer, I believe it went very, very well.
Well, so where do you where do you live? What state?
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yep, on the border of Ohio.
So do you still go out on the street? And
Yeah, I was out there yesterday.
wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. Now, how did all of this happen to you? How did you how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do with your life?
Well, I didn't decide it. It's kind of assigned to me. Um, I don't know if you watched the one of the interviews I was on, but I've actually had close to 40 jobs in my life. I'm 30 years old, and it's a lot of jobs. And every job I've had, I was consider myself pretty good at. I don't remember ever being fired from a job, but I always quit for one reason or another, usually an anxiety thing. I even have a disability that like causes me anxiety and stuff. And I thought I could never do work, and I just keep trying and trying and trying and trying, and kept failing and failing and failing and failing. But I found the skills that I was good at, and I've always had a calling to be a minister, but I didn't think I could do it, especially in the sense of like leading a church, because of all my anxieties and my ups and my downs. But I knew I loved God, and after losing connection with my family, that happened after I attempted suicide, and then all these crazy number of events led to me actually getting baptized. I was raised in a Catholic church. I was never baptized before, and I think it was 2 weeks after being baptized, I ended up preaching at two different churches, a few counties over that my grandma used to be a lay speaker at, because she was sick or something and couldn't do it. So they called me on Saturday morning and asked if I could fill in. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I preached two sermons that next Sunday. The next day, it was insane. I didn't even read the Bible much at that point in my life, and it was crazy. But I felt like spreading the word is the only thing that I'm meant to do. And I feel like I've gained the skills in other places to do it. And I believe God's let me have the struggles I've had so that I have the confidence as well as the understanding that this is what I'm supposed to do. As far as walking around the street, I've done that for a long time now, probably in a year. But the sign stuff only been going on for about 6 to 8 months or something like that. I don't know. And that happened when my wife was being really nice to me. And she's like, "Hey, why don't you take the afternoon and go do whatever you want?" So I got my fishing pole and stuff, put them in the car, and then on my way to the ponds, I decided to stop at Dollar Tree and I made a sign. And then
You
I
know,
drove
it's
and
funny. It's
what is
funny.
it?
I live way up in the mountains of Idaho.
Okay.
Uh, you know, and Jim and I refer you to as to you as Mothman Matt. You know,
All right. That's funny.
so you've got a handle now. But I mean, I find it interesting that a guy who's 30 years old, I'm 64, but I find it interesting that a guy who's 30 years old will get up off his couch and get out there and preach the word of Jesus. You might not think you're a preacher, but if you're going out there and you're sharing the love of Jesus, you're a preacher,
Yep.
you know. And so, well, I mean, I guess what I want to know is, where do you go from here? What's in the future for you?
Oh yeah, that's I have a perfect answer for that. I have no idea, and I don't really care because every day I'm led one way or another. So I don't have an answer for that, and I'm okay with that fact. But I do know when I get up, when I start my day, I always start my day with my devotional, and I take care of my daughter during the day. So I get up before she gets up, do all that stuff, my Bible study and listen to sermon music, praying and getting focused on my. And in the evenings, if I feel like I'm supposed to, I'll go out and do this kind of work. But as far as future goes, I don't have a clue. I never thought I'd be talking to you right now. And so I couldn't plan that one out. So I know that God will lead me and I'll just have to keep following. But he'll give me the answers when I'm supposed to have them.
Well, Matt, where do you think, as a country,
Hmm.
where do you think we're headed?
You mean like politically or
No, morally, spiritually.
morally? Oh yeah, it's a mess. I it's hard to handle sometimes thinking about how lost we are, including in my own family. I think that's kind of the urgency that I feel to get out and reach people because a lot of people are lost and they're still lost. They don't even know it. They think they have the right answers and they're not correct. My heart hurts for people that are so lost and evil that they think they're good. And I just have to combat against that. And I fully understand that in the sense of numbers, it's going to be a battle I will lose. But every person that I'd be able to help is a huge victory. And the Bible does talk about the one lost sheep and the amount of rejoicing. If I stay within a church community and we don't do outreach, we're just the 99, not going after the one. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't think the country's going great. I don't think the world's going great. I think it's going to keep getting worse. And I'm okay with that because I know that whatever happens, God will lead his people through it. And I don't have worry in that sense.
Well, I mean, look, I say this like probably every show I do, but the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I
Oh, yeah.
applaud you for getting up.
Thank you.
I applaud you for getting out there and doing something. How do people find you? Do you have a website or?
No, I don't have a website. Facebook. Yeah.
Here's what I love about this guy. He's just doing it, man. Well, we were hoping, excuse me, we were hoping to see you in Louisville,
Right.
but I guess you can't make it there.
Mhm.
But we'll have you back on
All right.
again, and we'll talk more about what does it mean to truly serve Jesus. What does it mean to put your hands up and say, I'll just go do it? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
Mhm.
But
That first sermon I was telling you about that I was doing, whatever. I ended up preaching on Samuel being called in the middle of the night. Of course, we all know that story.
well,
And I think that's incredible when you think about it. He walked in the room and said, "Here am I." He didn't say, "What do you want? What do you need? How can I help you? What do you need me to do?" He didn't care what the task would be or what would be demanded of him. He was letting his master know and he was fully available. That's how I consider myself to God. I'm ready to go whenever he needs me. It doesn't matter what it is. He'll get me through it. He'll lead me.
you are doing a great job.
Thank you. It's all God, man. It's all God.
So we'll be back with you here. We'll have you back on another show in a little while. But I want to
Okay.
thank you. I want to thank you for having the courage to get up and actually do something. So Matt, I really appreciate you being with us today,
Yes, sir.
and we'll have you back up here before long. But just seriously, dude, I mean, wow, you're doing the real work. So the rest of us out here that are just sitting here in front of the computer, get up off the couch, man. Get out there. Do what Matt does. Get out there and make a difference. I mean, that's what counts. So Matt, thank you again for joining us today.
I appreciate you letting me come on here, man. That's been a blessing.
Oh boy. Hang on one second, dude.
Okay.